Those soaring cathedral ceilings hold more than just stone and paint. They are a secret language, a three-dimensional map of a forgotten universe. For centuries, we have admired their beauty while missing their true purpose. This video will reveal how medieval builders embedded entire cosmic systems into their vaults, hiding a lost science of the stars in plain sight. By the end, you will forever see these sacred spaces not just as houses of worship, but as profound statements about humanity's place in the cosmos. Why would a Christian church encode pagan star lore into its very bones? And what message were they trying to convey to the future? When you look up at an ancient ceiling, what do you hope to find written in the stones? This entire cosmic vision rested upon a single, unshakable truth: the Earth as the motionless heart of creation. Picture a series of perfect, transparent spheres nested inside one another like a celestial onion. At the very center sat our world, solid and unmoving. Encircling it was the sphere of the Moon, then Mercury, Venus, the Sun, and on outward through the known planets. The final, outermost sphere held the fixed stars, a glittering tapestry turning in flawless unison, and beyond that lay the pure, unchanging realm of God Himself. This was not just a theory for medieval thinkers, it was the fundamental architecture of reality, a universe singing in perfect geometric harmony, and this divine order could not remain a mere idea. It had to be made manifest, built into the very spaces where humanity communed with the divine. So the cathedral was conceived as a model of this universe in miniature. Its long nave was the stable earth, the domain of mankind. The soaring arches and vaults above were the celestial spheres, the domain of the angels and the heavens. Every stone was placed to echo this greater structure, turning the building from a simple shelter into a symbolic map of all creation. Without grasping this profound intention, we are merely tourists admiring the decor. But with it, we become readers of a lost language, ready to translate the messages written in stone and light. Look up at that complex web of stone ribs overhead. What you are seeing is far more than an engineering marvel. It is a carefully drawn map of the sky. Each of those gracefully curving ribs functions like a line of celestial longitude or latitude, a set of cosmic coordinates etched in stone. This intricate grid was designed to guide your gaze along predetermined heavenly paths, tracing the perfect geometry believed to govern the universe's motion. It is the architectural equivalent of the lines on a globe, but this globe encompasses the entire cosmos. The most telling details, however, are found at the intersections. The carved stone bosses where the ribs converge are rarely just decorative. They are specific markers in this celestial chart: a gilded star, a carved sun, a serene angelic face. These were not random choices. They represented actual stars, planets, and divine intelligences positioned at critical points within the cosmic order. This entire system transformed a solid, unmoving ceiling into a dynamic diagram of the turning spheres. The stone itself seems to move, to sing with the silent music of a mathematical heaven. The rib vault, therefore, is our primary key. It is the structural skeleton upon which the body of a lost cosmic system was carefully reconstructed, a three-dimensional blueprint waiting centuries for us to learn how to read it again. But the map alone is not enough. To truly understand the message, we must look at the specific images chosen to inhabit this starry grid, the symbols that gave this cosmic architecture its voice. These carved bosses are the punctuation marks in the cathedral's celestial sentence. While the ribs form the grammatical structure of the cosmic map, the bosses are the specific nouns and verbs, the named places and actors in the heavenly drama. A gilded sunburst carved at a critical junction is not merely a symbol of light. It is a precise marker, likely indicating the sun's position at a solstice or equinox within the stone sky. A carefully sculpted lamb, often seen as a symbol of Christ, simultaneously anchors the constellation Aries into the architecture, weaving the ancient Zodiac directly into the Christian narrative. This dual meaning was entirely intentional. Every carving was selected through a rigorous process, its iconography and placement dictated by a complex fusion of astrology, theology, and local history. The entire ceiling presented a sequential story, a narrative pathway that could be read by the educated clergy as they processed through the sacred space. The story told by these stone icons was often deeply personal to the cathedral itself. A series of bosses might chart the life of the patron saint, with key events aligned symbolically with specific planets or stars, forever linking the saint's celestial favor to the building's cosmic design. Or the sequence might recount a foundational myth, translating local lore into the universal language of the heavens. When we learn to read this sequence, boss by boss, we stop simply seeing decoration and start hearing a lost conversation. Each sculpted leaf, angel, and mythical beast is a word, and when read together, they form a profound declaration about the unity of the earthly and the divine. This celestial language, however, was not meant to be read in silence. It was designed to be illuminated. This symbolic language transforms the ceiling into a vibrant, layered text. A single image, like a lion, could roar with multiple meanings at once. It might depict the constellation Leo, a celestial marker of seasonal change, while simultaneously embodying the resurrected Christ, the Lion of Judah. A wheel carved into the stone was not just a wheel, it was a symbol of fortune, the turning of the seasons, and the very rotation of the celestial spheres, all condensed into one elegant form. This was a visual code designed for universal understanding, speaking directly to a congregation that could not read written words but was fluent in the grammar of symbols. The rich, spreading vine motif is a perfect example. To the faithful, it clearly represented Christ's words, "I am the vine." Yet, arching across the curved vault of the ceiling, that same vine could also map the glowing, star-dusted path of the Milky Way, visualized as a river of light or a harvest of divine souls. This was not a case of one meaning being true and the other false. Both were equally true, intentionally layered together by the designers. A common farmer looking up would see a familiar spiritual lesson. An educated monk gazing at the same image would read a lesson in sacred astronomy. This brilliant synthesis allowed the church to be a university for the soul and the senses, teaching complex cosmic principles through the beauty of art. Every symbol was a key that could unlock multiple doors of understanding, blending earthly faith with celestial order into a single, harmonious vision. To see only the religious meaning is to hear only one note in a grand chord. The entire system was a testament to a world where knowledge was not divided into separate subjects, but was a unified whole, where God's word and God's creation were 2 pages of the same holy book. This intricate code now draws our eyes upward to the most breathtaking and explicit declarations of this cosmic vision, the vast painted heavens that cover the ceilings like an open sky. The most breathtaking expressions of this cosmic vision were not just carved, but painted across the heavens of the church. Look to the surviving masterpieces, like the legendary blue Virgin Vault in Chartres Cathedral. Its ceiling was once a profound, luminous blue, a field of solid lapis lazuli pigment upon which hundreds of golden stars were meticulously placed. This was far more than a beautiful decoration meant to evoke a generic night. It was a precise astronomical chart, a map of the northern constellations carefully aligned with the cathedral's own east-west axis. On a specific feast day, with the sun streaming through a particular window, the entire building could function as a symbolic observatory, the real-world light interacting with the painted cosmos to mark a sacred moment in time. This alignment turned architecture into a timekeeping device, a stone and paint calendar synchronized with the sky itself. A similar story unfolds high above the pilgrims at Canterbury Cathedral in the Trinity Chapel. Here, the vault is a complex mosaic of carved medallions, each one cradling a painted star. This repeating pattern is not random ornament. It is a schematic diagram of the cosmic order, a guide for the soul. As a pilgrim walked the physical path toward the shrine of Thomas Becket, their eyes were drawn upward along this starry path, their earthly journey mirrored by a spiritual ascent through the layered heavens. The sheer cost of this art reveals its immense importance. That deep blue at Chartres was made from crushed lapis lazuli, a gemstone more valuable than gold, imported from distant Afghanistan. The message was clear. The church was literally investing the wealth of the world into portraying the wealth of the cosmos, embedding the value of the universe into its very plaster and stone. Centuries of grime and fading pigments have veiled these truths, turning vibrant skies to dull shadows. Yet, modern laser cleaning and spectral imaging are now peeling back the layers of time, restoring the brilliance of that original blue and the sharp glitter of each gold star. This technological restoration is a powerful metaphor. It is helping us to recover not just the paint, but the perception of the people who placed it there, allowing us to see the ceiling with their eyes once more. These master masons held a secret that was both practical and profoundly spiritual. Their sketchbooks reveal the mind of a true cosmographer, a map-maker of the universe. Villard de Honnecourt's famous parchment pages are a perfect example, filled with intricate geometric puzzles next to lifting machines, and delicate sketches of church towers alongside precise diagrams for calculating the movements of the sun and moon. This was not a random collection of interests. It was the complete toolkit of a man whose job was to build a model of God's creation. This knowledge was a sacred trust, a form of divine wisdom passed from master to apprentice within the closed world of the guilds. To possess it was to understand the hidden mathematical language with which the universe was written, and to be charged with the awesome responsibility of rewriting that language in stone. The Mason saw himself as a co-creator with God, tasked with bringing a sliver of celestial perfection down into our flawed, material world. This is why the entire cathedral is a cosmological instrument. Its long axis is meticulously aligned to catch the first light of the solstice sunrise, transforming the building into a giant calendar. The proportions of the nave, the height of the arches, the sweep of the vaults, none of this was arbitrary. These dimensions were derived from sacred geometric ratios, the same ratios believed to govern the harmony of the planets. The architect was not just designing a building, he was solving a divine equation with the finished cathedral as his proof. Every perfectly placed stone was a testament to this belief, a physical declaration that human reason could, in fact, mirror the mind of God. This incredible precision, achieved centuries before modern engineering, forces us to ask a simple yet staggering question. How did they do it with such rudimentary tools? The master mason's compass was more than a tool. It was an instrument of divine revelation. This simple device, tracing perfect circles on a sheet of parchment, was believed to replicate the very motion of the heavens. When he set out the plan for a vault, he was not merely drafting architectural lines, he was inscribing the fundamental geometry of creation itself. This was the doctrine of sacred geometry, the unshakable conviction that God had built the cosmos using perfect mathematical ratios, and that humanity's highest calling was to rediscover and rebuild those ratios on Earth. The most revered of these was the golden section, a proportion so harmonious it appears throughout nature, from the spiral of a seashell to the arrangement of seeds in a sunflower. To the medieval mind, this was not a coincidence. It was proof of a universal blueprint, a visual echo of the divine voice that spoke the world into being. This mathematical faith was made manifest in every aspect of the cathedral's design. The plan of the entire building often began with the vesica piscis, that almond shape created by the overlap of two circles. It is a shape rich with meaning, symbolizing the intersection of the divine and the human, the spiritual and the material. From this single, sacred form, the entire layout of the church could be generated, its proportions echoing outwards in a cascade of perfect geometry. The width of the nave relates to its height by a sacred ratio. The span of each arch is a fraction of a larger, ideal circle. These were not arbitrary aesthetic decisions. They were calculated to make the space feel inherently right, balanced, and peaceful because it resonated with the same mathematical truth that governed the orbits of planets. You do not need to understand the math to feel its effect. When you stand in such a space, a deep, almost cellular sense of order and calm can settle over you. That feeling is the architecture speaking its hidden language of number and form. This rigid mathematical grid provided the stable foundation for the more fluid stories told in the stars. The precise, unwavering lines of the sacred geometry created the fixed coordinates, the longitude and latitude of this stone-built cosmos. Upon this stable grid, the more dynamic narratives could be laid, like the wandering paths of the planets or the turning wheel of the Zodiac. The Zodiac itself, with its 12 equal divisions, is a perfect example of sacred geometry applied to the sky, a circle divided into mathematically harmonious parts. So when you see those 12 signs carved around a cathedral doorway or painted in a vault, you are not just looking at superstition or decoration. You are witnessing the marriage of myth and mathematics, where the stories of the constellations are anchored into the eternal truth of number. This fusion of the calculable and the symbolic is the vaulted truth in its purest form, a universe built from both equation and epic, forever frozen in stone. The Zodiac's 12-fold path did not hang alone in the cathedral's sky. It was woven directly into the floor beneath the feet of every pilgrim. Look down, and you might find a labyrinth, its winding path a symbolic journey through the year and through life itself, its circuits echoing the 12-fold division of the celestial wheel. This was the ultimate synthesis of cosmic cycles and sacred history. Each zodiac sign governed a month and its essential agricultural labor, the timeless rhythm of sowing and reaping that sustained human life. Aries marked the spring planting, Virgo the summer harvest. These were the undeniable cycles of nature, yet the Church brilliantly mapped its own linear story of salvation directly onto this ancient wheel. The sign of Pisces, ruling the watery month of February, was simultaneously connected to the season of Lent, a time of spiritual reflection and Christ's ministry. Virgo, the Virgin, was effortlessly adopted as a celestial sign for the Virgin Mary. In this system, a farmer seeing a carving of Sagittarius the Archer was reminded of the autumn hunt, but he was also subtly guided to contemplate the arrows of divine will or the missionary zeal of the apostles. This was not a clumsy overlay. It was a profound declaration that the God who acted in history was the same God who set the stars in their courses. All truth was one. By Christianizing the pagan Zodiac, the Church performed a masterstroke of cultural absorption. It claimed the entire cosmos for its own, demonstrating that every fragment of ancient knowledge, every observation of the natural world, ultimately pointed back to the Creator. The cyclical time of the stars and the linear time of Scripture were not in conflict. They were two harmonies in a single divine symphony. This elegant fusion of the recurring and the unrepeatable sets the stage for a final, staggering realization. If the entire cosmos was mapped onto the ceiling, then specific, singular moments in that cosmic history could be recorded there, too, frozen in stone for all time. These stone giants were not passive maps, they were active observatories. That precise east-west alignment, placing the altar to face the dawn, was just the beginning. On the morning of a specific saint's day, a single sunbeam could slide through a high, strategically placed window, a window that seemed unremarkable for 364 days of the year. But on that one day, that spear of light would travel across the shadowed floor, striking with perfect accuracy a single carved stone or a specific inlaid tile, a golden finger pointing to a moment in both sacred time and celestial time. This was the cathedral functioning as a giant sundial, its architecture calibrated to the turning of the earth itself. The most magnificent of these timekeeping features are the great rose windows. We admire their beauty, their intricate stone wheels filled with stained glass, but they were also sophisticated instruments. As the sun moved through the sky and across the seasons, the pattern of light cast by the rose window would shift and turn upon the interior floor and walls. The luminous tracery would trace a path, its colored fragments marking the solstices and equinoxes with a silent, predictable grace. This was not an accident. It was a deliberate fusion of faith and empirical science, a way to weave the incontrovertible laws of physics into the experience of worship. The cosmic design was not just a symbol to be believed, it was a system to be used, a truth you could watch with your own eyes as light painted its proof on the stones. This tangible, glorious interaction with light forces us to see it not just as illumination, but as the central character in this cosmic drama. Light was understood as the very substance of divinity. For theologians like Abbot Suger of St. Denis, the radiant light streaming through a window was not merely a metaphor for God. It was a tangible fragment of His presence, a physical emanation of the divine into our material world. This belief was the driving force behind the revolutionary stained glass windows of the Gothic era. These were not just colorful pictures, they were alchemical filters designed to transmute the raw, blinding light of the common sun into a softened, sacred spectrum of jewel-toned illumination. The goal was to drench the cathedral interior in a heavenly glow, a visual symphony of color that represented divine wisdom and grace actively flooding into the world. This transformed light did not simply fall upon the cosmic diagrams on the ceiling, it brought them to life. As the sun traveled across the sky, its beams would slide across the vaulted surfaces. A shaft of ruby-red light might ignite a carved stone sun, making it pulse with inner fire. A pool of sapphire blue could wash over a gilded star boss, causing it to glitter as if seen across a vast celestial distance. The static map of the heavens was animated by this daily light show, the moving sunbeams tracing the paths of the planets and giving the illusion that the stone spheres themselves were in majestic, silent motion. The specific colors were chosen with profound intention. The deep, costly blue of the Virgin's robe was the blue of the eternal heavens. The vibrant red of a martyr's window was the red of divine love and sacrificial blood. The brilliant gold in a saint's halo was the direct, unmediated light of God. Walking through this space was a multi-sensory immersion into the celestial realm. You were not just learning about the cosmos, you were standing within a living model of it, surrounded by its light and color. This entire metaphysics of light, this profound understanding of illumination as sacred substance, finds its ultimate and most ambitious expression in the grandest ceiling designs of all, the vast painted heavens that sought to capture the entire cosmos in a single, breathtaking vision. This vision of a unified cosmos mapped in stone and light was a language spoken across Europe. Far from the great French cathedrals, another masterpiece whispers the same vaulted truth. Beneath the feet of every coronation in Westminster Abbey lies a secret universe, the Great Pavement. It is a breathtaking mosaic of porphyry, onyx, and glass, a complex geometric puzzle laid down in the 13th century by Italian cosmology craftsmen. This floor is not merely a decorative carpet, it is a schematic diagram of creation itself, a direct echo of the cosmic systems painted on the ceilings far above. The design is a profound conversation between shapes where perfect circles representing the eternal and divine heavens are nested within and intertwined with squares, symbolizing the four corners of our earthly, mortal world. To stand upon this pavement is to stand at the very center of a symbolic map, with the entire cosmos radiating out from your feet and arching over your head. It connects the pilgrim physically to the cosmic order, making you a living part of the diagram. This intricate work, commissioned by a king and crafted by Roman artisans, reveals a startling universality. These were not isolated, local superstitions. They were the intellectual currency of a pan-European elite, a shared language of sacred geometry understood by clerics, kings, and master masons from London to Rome. The abstract perfection of the cosmology patterns presents the universe not as a collection of stories, but as a system of divine mathematics. The precise ratios and interlocking shapes are a silent hymn to the God who ordered all things by number, weight, and measure. This challenges our modern, fragmented view of these spaces. We tend to admire the windows, then the statues, then the ceilings as separate works of art. But the cosmology pavement at Westminster demands we see the entire architectural volume as a single, integrated instrument. The floor charts the stable earth, the walls mark the sacred space of humanity, and the vaults arc into the celestial spheres. Every surface is a coordinated part of a grand whole, a complete cosmic model built for walking, praying, and wandering within. This holistic design was the ultimate goal, to create a space where every stone, from the ground to the highest peak, sang in harmony about the structure of reality. That intricate star map painted on the ceiling of a cathedral is a living fossil. The constellations traced in gold leaf, the paths of the planets marked by carved bosses, these are not original Christian inventions. They are a direct inheritance, a vast body of knowledge meticulously preserved from the ancient world. The medieval church stood at a crossroads with this pagan star lore. One path led to rejection, to branding it as dangerous heresy. The other, far more ingenious path was one of absorption. The church chose to baptize the cosmos itself, weaving Babylonian astronomy, Egyptian solar observations, and the entire pantheon of Greco-Roman gods directly into the fabric of Christian worship. This was a profound act of syncretism, a declaration that all truth was God's truth, no matter its source. The 7 classical planets, known by the names of Roman deities, were not erased. Instead, they were systematically reinterpreted. The fiery planet Mars, named for the god of war, became a celestial symbol of the vice of wrath or the virtue of righteous courage. Venus, the goddess of love, was transformed into an emblem of divine charity or human lust, depending on the context of the surrounding art. The entire Greek Zodiac, with its stories of heroes and monsters, was seamlessly stitched into the timeline of biblical history. The constellation of Aries the ram could now point to the ram sacrificed by Abraham, while Pisces the fishes evoked the loaves and fishes miracle of Christ. This created a visual palimpsest on the vaulted ceiling, where a pagan understanding of the cosmos is still clearly visible, shining through a thin, glorious layer of Christian gold leaf. To read these ceilings is to witness a continuous human project, an unbroken thread of cosmic inquiry that stretches from the stargazers of Babylon to the master masons of Chartres. They were not wiping the slate clean. They were writing a new chapter in a very old book claiming the entire universe and all prior human effort to understand it for their God. This brilliant synthesis raises a haunting question. If this cosmic vision was so complete, so beautifully integrated, why was it ultimately forgotten, leaving us to rediscover its meaning centuries later? The old cosmic order, so perfectly expressed in stone, could not withstand a single, revolutionary idea. The slow, inexorable rise of the heliocentric model did not just move the Earth from the center of the universe, it pulled the philosophical rug out from under the cathedral builders' feet. When Copernicus and later Galileo argued that our world was merely another planet orbiting the sun, the entire symbolic architecture of the medieval world collapsed. The nested celestial spheres, the perfect geocentric harmony, the entire universe singing around a motionless Earth, all of it was suddenly a beautiful, profound, and utterly mistaken dream. The cathedrals themselves did not change, but the way people saw them did. Those vaulted ceilings, once understood as true maps of divine creation, were gradually recast as magnificent fictions, their intricate cosmographies now seen as outdated superstition rendered in stone. The very purpose of their design had been intellectually voided. This seismic shift in human thought is physically written in the art that followed. Look at the ceilings of the Baroque era that came after the Renaissance. They are spectacular, to be sure, but they speak a different language entirely. Gone are the schematic diagrams of planets and stars. In their place, we see overwhelming dramas, clouds bursting with saints and angels, and breathtaking illusions of architecture receding into an infinite heaven. This is the art of trompe l'oeil, designed to fool the eye and overwhelm the senses with emotion and theatrical faith. The goal was no longer to educate the viewer about the structure of the cosmos, but to inspire awe through narrative and spectacle. The ceiling ceased to be a functional map and became a magnificent stage set. The encoded knowledge in the Gothic vaults did not vanish in a day, of course. It faded generation by generation as the old cosmology was purged from universities and intellectual life. The master mason's sacred geometry, once the key to the universe, became merely a quaint historical style. The star maps painted on the plaster became simple decoration, their specific alignments and meanings forgotten. The language of the vaults fell silent, not because people stopped looking up, but because they had lost the dictionary. This silencing makes our modern quest to recover that language so critically important. We are not just restoring old buildings, we are resuscitating a lost worldview. And it is our newest technologies, from high-resolution spectral imaging to three-dimensional laser scanning, that are giving us the tools to hear that silent music once more. These digital eyes can peer through centuries of grime to recover the original brilliance of a painted star, or measure the precise alignment of a rib with a forgotten solstice sunrise. The very science that made their cosmos obsolete is now the key to understanding it, allowing us to piece together the fragments of a vaulted truth that was nearly lost forever. The digital eye now sees what centuries of candle smoke have hidden. Advanced imaging technologies are peeling back the layers of time, revealing the original brilliance of these painted heavens with stunning clarity. Through multispectral analysis, conservators can look beneath the surface grime and faded pigments to recover the precise placement of long-lost stars. A faint smudge on the plaster is digitally remastered into a sharp gold leaf constellation, its original position in the stone sky now measurable to the millimeter. This is more than just restoration, it is a form of archaeological time travel, giving us a view of the ceiling as the first worshippers saw it. At the same time, three-dimensional laser scanning captures the entire architectural volume of a cathedral with sub-millimeter precision. These billions of data points create a perfect digital twin of the building, allowing researchers to test a hypothesis that was once pure speculation. They can input the exact coordinates of a specific boss or a painted star into astronomical software, then run a simulation of the night sky as it would have appeared on the day the cathedral was consecrated. The results are often breathtaking. A line of carved ribs, once thought merely decorative, can be shown to align perfectly with the path of Venus on a major feast day. A cluster of stars around a central cross might mirror the actual celestial arrangement on a date of profound local significance. At Lincoln Cathedral, laser scans uncovered faint geometric lines scratched into the stone, a secret blueprint used by the Masons. These ghostly guidelines correspond perfectly to cosmological diagrams found in medieval manuscripts, proving the builders were working from a shared, sophisticated template for mapping the heavens. This technological renaissance provides something historians have long craved: hard data. The connection between architecture and astronomy is moving from a compelling theory to a verifiable fact, supported by the unerring logic of mathematics and light. We can now state with confidence that these designs were functional, an integral part of the building's sacred purpose. They were not just beautiful decoration, but a built-in interactive planetarium for the soul. So this grand cosmic scheme was at its heart a form of mass communication. To a population that was largely illiterate, these vaulted ceilings served as a three-dimensional textbook, a Bible written in stone and light. A farmer who could not read a single word of Latin scripture could look up and understand the vastness of God's creation, the perfect order of the spheres, and his own small but appointed place within that divine structure. The very hierarchy of the cosmos, from the stable earth to the angelic spheres, mirrored and reinforced the social hierarchy of the medieval world, teaching a lesson in celestial obedience that had direct implications for earthly life. This was visual theology on a monumental scale, designed to instruct every soul that entered. Yet the lesson was not meant to be merely understood, it was meant to be felt. The true goal was to inspire a staggering sense of wonder, that overwhelming feeling the Romans called numen, the palpable presence of divine power. The medieval thinkers saw this awe as a direct foretaste of heaven itself, a momentary crack in the earthly veil that allowed a glimpse of God's glory to flood in. When that single sunbeam ignited a golden star or the entire choir echoed under a star-painted vault, the architecture worked in concert with ritual to create an emotional and spiritual experience that mere words could never achieve. It was a sensory overload aimed squarely at the soul, lifting the worshipper out of the mundane and toward the sublime. This experience was framed as a journey, a vertical path to salvation mapped directly onto the building itself. You began your physical walk on the solid, earthly floor of the nave, a space for the congregation and the rhythms of daily life. But your gaze, and with it your spirit, was drawn inexorably upward, climbing the pillars like rungs on a ladder. Your eyes would travel past the stained glass stories of saints, past the carved angels, and finally arrive at the celestial vaults, that representation of the pure, immaterial realm of God. This architectural ascent was a rehearsal for the soul's ultimate journey, a guided meditation on leaving the material world behind. This multifunctional role makes the Gothic ceiling an active, dynamic participant in worship, not a passive backdrop. It teaches, it overwhelms, and it guides all at once. This stands in fascinating contrast to other spiritual traditions that seek the divine not by looking up toward an ornate heaven, but by turning inward through silent, empty spaces. The intricate, story-filled cosmos of the cathedral ceiling offers one powerful answer to humanity's oldest question, an answer built not on secrecy, but on the most public and glorious display imaginable. Yet this vaulted language of the cosmos was not the only way to build a heaven on earth. Travel to an Eastern Orthodox church and look up. You will not find a complex web of stone ribs mapping planetary paths. Instead, a single, overwhelming dome dominates the space, its surface almost always filled with the powerful, penetrating gaze of the Pantocrator, the image of Christ as the all-powerful ruler of the universe. This is not a systematic diagram of cosmic order, but a direct, personal confrontation with divine authority. The architecture's purpose is to make you feel the immediate, awesome presence of God, not to teach you the geometric structure of His creation. The focus shifts from a knowable system to an unknowable, majestic being. A similar but distinct approach blossoms under the domes of Islamic architecture. Here, the heavens are evoked through breathtakingly complex muqarnas vaults, which resemble stalactites or a honeycomb of intricate, repeating cells. These structures, along with star-studded domes painted in deep blue, create a sense of infinite, ascending repetition. The avoidance of figurative images focuses the mind entirely on the abstract, boundless nature of the divine, expressed through mathematics that seem to stretch into eternity. These comparisons throw the Western Gothic achievement into sharp relief. The cathedrals of France and England are unique in their almost obsessive, diagrammatic approach. They present the cosmos not just as a divine presence to be felt, but as an intricate, mechanical system to be understood, a clockwork universe whose gears and levers are drawn in stone for any educated person to read. This was a fundamentally different spiritual project, one that sought to reconcile faith with reason, and to find God not only through prayer but through the meticulous study of His creation's blueprints. Understanding these parallel traditions enriches our appreciation for the medieval mind. It shows a world grappling with the same profound questions of existence, but through different architectural vocabularies. One tradition emphasizes the ruler's face, another the infinite pattern, and the Gothic West the detailed map. This global context makes the secret code some see hidden within these Western maps even more tantalizing. If the surface-level design is this sophisticated, what deeper messages might be woven into the very fabric of the stones? But beneath this grand public teaching, a more secretive language may have been whispered in the stones. The same geometric patterns and symbolic creatures that illustrated orthodox cosmology could also be read as a coded manuscript of esoteric knowledge. A green lion carved on a boss might represent the constellation Leo to the masses, but to an initiate in alchemy, it was the symbol of raw primal matter at the start of the great work, the quest to transmute base metal into spiritual gold. The entire vault could be seen as a recipe for inner transformation, with the ribs tracing the stages of purification and the central keystone representing the philosopher's stone itself. This was a hidden layer of meaning, accessible only to those with the key. The numbers embedded in the architecture are particularly compelling to those who hunt for codes. Why are there exactly 33 ribs in a specific bay, or 12 medallions in a sequence? To the Orthodox, 33 is the age of Christ at His Passion, and 12 represents the apostles. Yet to a student of numerology or advanced astrology, these numbers could unlock a different set of calculations, perhaps encoding a significant celestial date or a mathematical constant known only to a privileged few. The vibrant colors of the stained glass also carried dual meanings. The deep red of a martyr's window is the blood of Christ, but it is also the rubedo, the final red stage of the alchemical process, symbolizing enlightenment and unity with the divine. This is not necessarily a contradiction. The medieval mind saw all knowledge as interconnected, a single truth viewed through different lenses. Some of the most tantalizing theories connect these designs to groups officially condemned by the Church. Could the labyrinth on the floor of Chartres Cathedral be a coded map for Cathar Perfecti, who saw the material world as a prison from which to escape? Might the unusual floral motifs in a Templar chapel contain heretical symbols of a more personal path to God, bypassing the need for papal intercession? These ideas are fiercely debated, with most mainstream historians pointing to a lack of direct documentary evidence. Yet their persistence is a testament to the cathedral's own power. The sheer complexity of its design creates a Rorschach test for the ages, inviting us to see our own mysteries reflected in its vaults. The ultimate truth may lie in the architecture's inherent ambiguity. The master masons were steeped in a tradition that revered multi-layered symbolism, where a single form could hold public, private, and even mystical meanings simultaneously. They built a language so rich and dense that it could never be exhausted, ensuring their work would remain a living puzzle. Separating historical fact from modern fiction is a delicate art, but perhaps the desire to find a secret code is the most telling clue of all. It proves that these structures still challenge us, still beckon us to look closer and dig deeper. They refuse to be mere relics, instead acting as silent partners in an endless conversation about the nature of truth itself. Separating historical truth from modern myth requires a careful and disciplined approach. For every genuine discovery about these cosmic ceilings, a dozen sensational theories bloom, whispering of secret societies or even ancient astronauts guiding the hands of the masons. A serious historian does not simply gaze at the stones and speculate. The process is more like detective work, building a case by cross-referencing multiple forms of evidence. The architectural design itself is the first clue, but it must be checked against a library of primary sources. This includes medieval texts on astronomy and cosmology, the few surviving builders' manuals, theological works that explain the symbolism of colors and creatures, and even the liturgical scripts that dictated the prayers and processions for which the space was built. Only by listening to these voices from the past can we hope to understand what they were actually trying to say. The context is everything. We must ask who paid for this ceiling and what did they hope to achieve? What technology and mathematical knowledge were truly available to the builders in, say, the year 1280? The goal is to reconstruct the medieval worldview on its own terms, rather than projecting our own modern mysteries and desires onto their art. This rigorous methodology is what allows us to state with confidence that the vaults encode a sophisticated, if outdated, model of the universe. The evidence for this is overwhelming and consistent across Europe. At the same time, this same scholarly rigor forces us to cautiously set aside the more fanciful narratives that, while compelling, simply lack any supporting evidence in the historical record. By adhering to this grounded approach, we do more than just uncover facts. We honor the authentic, tangible genius of the medieval builders. Their real achievement, the creation of a stone cosmos using little more than compasses and faith, is breathtaking enough. It requires no embellishment from alien visitors or fictional conspiracies to be considered one of humanity's greatest intellectual and artistic triumphs. And when we stand beneath these vaults with this clear-eyed understanding, our connection to the past becomes far more profound. We are not chasing ghosts or codes, but communing with the actual minds of people who looked at the same stars and sought to capture their divine order in a lasting monument of stone and light. Lie flat on the cool stone floor and let your eyes travel the ribs like roads across a stone sky. This simple shift in perspective is the first step to unlocking the vaulted truth for yourself. You are not just looking at architecture, you are reading a map. Follow the curve of a single rib from its springing point on a pillar to where it meets others high above. Notice how these lines create sections like continents on a celestial globe. Now, seek out the carved bosses at their intersections. That weathered face might be a moon, that floral burst a distant sun. Even the faintest traces of pigment, a shadow of blue or a speck of gold, are clues to a once vibrant heaven. Try to see past the solid stone to the dynamic system it represents, a clockwork universe frozen in its perfect motion. Your own body, aligned with the nave's axis, becomes part of the instrument, grounding you at the center of this cosmic model. Watch how the light moves. Return to the same spot in the morning and then again in the afternoon. Notice how a specific sunbeam might highlight a particular carving or paint a path of light across the vault. That moving spotlight is a modern echo of the celestial pointer the builders designed for, a direct connection to the cosmic cycle they revered. Many cathedrals now embrace this hidden history, offering specialized tours or detailed mobile applications that highlight their astronomical features. Use these tools not as a final answer, but as a starting point for your own investigation. Let them direct your gaze, then look deeper for your own connections. This active engagement changes everything. You are no longer a tourist passively absorbing beauty, but a participant in a silent conversation that has been ongoing for 800 years. You are repeating the very act of observation and wonder that the master masons encoded into the stones, bridging the centuries with a single upward glance. This personal pilgrimage makes the historical knowledge vibrantly alive, proving that the desire to map our place in the cosmos is a timeless human impulse, as relevant today as it was in the age of faith. That medieval impulse to build the cosmos into our ceilings never truly vanished. It simply found new forms, its echoes resonating in the steel and glass of our modern world. Consider the planetarium, a direct and undeniable heir to the cathedral vault. Its domed screen is a technological fulfillment of that ancient desire, a perfect surface for projecting precise, moving star maps. The function remains strikingly similar: to educate and to overwhelm with a sublime sense of our place in the universe. We have traded stained glass for digital projectors, but the goal of lifting our eyes and our spirits to the heavens is exactly the same. This tradition of meaningful space extends far beyond literal representations of the sky. The profound work of architect Louis Kahn, for instance, sought to create what he called a presence beyond function. His buildings, like the Kimbell Art Museum, are masterclasses in geometric order and the manipulation of what he termed silence and light. He designed spaces that feel inherently sacred, not through religious iconography, but through the sheer power of proportion and the way natural light animates concrete and travertine. Walking through one of his structures, you feel a hushed, cosmic calm, a direct continuation of the medieval quest to build with divine harmony. Japanese architect Tadao Ando speaks the same architectural language with a different dialect. His Church of the Light in Osaka is a modern testament to this enduring principle. The entire building is a minimalist concrete box, utterly austere until the sun rises. Then, a cruciform slit in the wall behind the altar cuts the darkness, flooding the space with two brilliant bars of light. This is not decoration. It is a theological statement written in pure illumination, as powerful and intentional as any rose window's play of color. It proves that the sacred can be evoked through emptiness and light as potently as through intricate, star-filled detail. You can even find a whisper of this celestial ambition in the most secular of spaces. Look up at the famous green ceiling of New York's Grand Central Terminal, adorned with 60 glowing constellations. It is a pattern for hurried commuters, yet it subconsciously connects them to an ancient human story. That vault, though painted on a railroad station, fulfills the same deep-seated need to bring the sky indoors, to remind us that even in our most human-made environments, we are part of something vast and beautiful. The materials change from stone to steel to reinforced concrete, but the fundamental human longing remains etched into the blueprint. We still build to find our place in the cosmos, crafting shelters that are not just for our bodies, but for our boundless wonder. These fragile painted heavens are in a constant, silent battle with the modern world. Every breath of polluted air, every shift in humidity, and the slow, relentless creep of centuries cause pigments to flake and stone to crumble. Saving them is a painstaking race against decay, a discipline that merges the skills of an artist, a scientist, and a historian. Conservators work inch by inch, using microscopes and fine brushes to re-adhere a flake of gold leaf that once represented a star, or injecting delicate grout behind a plaster sky to secure it for another 100 years. This is not a restoration aimed at making the ceiling look new, but a stabilization to halt its disappearance, preserving the authentic voice of the past. The cost is astronomical, a testament to the value we now place on this nearly lost language. Alongside this physical rescue, a parallel digital universe is being born. Teams using advanced laser scanners and high-resolution cameras are creating perfect three-dimensional models of these celestial vaults. Every crack, every faded brushstroke, every subtle curvature of a stone rib is captured with sub-millimeter precision. These virtual ceilings are more than just photographs, they are immortal archives. They allow a researcher in Tokyo to measure the angles between painted constellations, or a student in Buenos Aires to take a virtual walk across a boss-studded vault, exploring details too high and fragile to ever be seen from the ground. This digital preservation guarantees that even if the unthinkable happens and a physical ceiling is lost, its entire cosmic blueprint will survive forever, a permanent record of human wonder. This dual approach is our best hope for safeguarding this irreplaceable heritage. The hands-on conservation saves the original artifact, the sacred object itself, while the digital archiving democratizes its knowledge, making it accessible to the entire world for endless future study. To lose these ceilings would be to shatter a vital link in our intellectual chain, a direct connection to a time when humanity built its understanding of the universe into the very stones of its most sacred spaces. Protecting them is an act of preserving not just beauty, but a fundamental chapter in the story of how we see our place in the cosmos. This entire cosmic symphony, from the painted stars to the carved planets, was a powerful declaration of faith. The medieval world did not see a cold, empty universe, but a creation perpetually singing in worship. The very stones of the cathedral were designed to resonate with a silent, celestial music known as the music of the spheres. This was not a literal melody, but a divine harmony born from the perfect mathematical motion of the planets as they moved through their orbits. Each celestial sphere was thought to produce its own unique, inaudible hum, a note in a grand cosmic chord that praised the Creator simply by following its perfect, God-given path. The intricate geometry of the rib vaults was an attempt to freeze this perfect harmony in stone, to make the silent music visible. When you stand beneath that vault, you are standing inside a frozen hymn. This theological idea transformed the purpose of the building completely. The prayers rising from the congregation below were not isolated pleas sent into a void. They were human voices joining a chorus that was already in progress, a song being sung by the sun, the moon, and every star. The cathedral became a participant in a cosmic liturgy, a place where the worship of humanity and the worship of creation became one unified act. This challenges our modern experience of a universe that often feels vast, silent, and indifferent. For the medieval mind, the cosmos was not impersonal. It was a living, breathing testament to a logical and artistic God, and every human-built structure that reflected that order became a bridge between our world and the divine. The ceiling was not a distant decoration, but a direct invitation to join the song. We began by looking up at a stone sky, and we end by understanding that we were gazing at a sophisticated model of the medieval universe, a vaulted truth encoded in rib, boss, and paint. These ceilings are a testament to a time when science, art, and faith were not separate endeavors but intertwined strands of a single quest to comprehend the divine order of all things. They challenge our modern fragmentation of knowledge and remind us of the power of an integrated worldview. The next time you stand in the quiet grandeur of a Gothic cathedral, remember to look up. You are not just seeing architecture, you are reading a lost book of the cosmos. Let this rediscovered knowledge inspire you to see the world with older, wiser eyes, and perhaps share this vaulted truth with someone else, keeping the dialogue between earth and sky alive. This journey through the vaulted truth is one we have taken together, but the conversation does not have to end here. If these celestial ceilings have sparked your curiosity, you can help this channel continue its explorations by liking this video and subscribing for more deep dives into the hidden histories that surround us. Your engagement makes this shared discovery possible. I am truly eager to hear your own stories in the comments below. Have you stood beneath a cathedral vault and sensed its hidden order? Or will you now look at these stone skies with a new understanding? Your personal experiences and questions are a vital part of unraveling this mystery. For those of you ready to delve even deeper, I have compiled a list of essential resources, from groundbreaking books on medieval cosmology to guides on sacred geometry, all waiting for you in the video description. Thank you for joining me on this ascent into the architectural heavens. May your own gaze, wherever you are, remain forever tilted upward in search of wonder.